Alrighty, welcome to the Orange County special episode 86 of Tokwa's Ask Us Anything. Tonight we have Dennis Pascal, who is president of the Tesla Owners Club Orange County. And welcome, Dennis, as I just reset. Uh,
Thanks,
yeah,
Harold.
thank you very much for joining us, Dennis. It's fantastic. Now, just for the benefit of everyone basically in Australia, I'd just like to highlight where Orange County actually is. It's just southeast of Los Angeles.
Yep.
So that's just to orient. Obviously, the Tesla Fremont factory is just near San Jose here, and the new Austin Gigafactory is far to the east. So
Yep.
just for a bit of orientation. Now, Dennis, I've got an image here that might mean something to you, and I'd like you to
Yep.
explain it. And it looks a little bit like this.
Yes, that is the fleet.
Okay, so I guess the fleet started with the Roadster on the right hand side. Um,
Correct.
Tell us about how you got your Roadster and how you sort of thought to even do that.
Yeah. In 2012, I started driving EVs with a pilot fleet called the Active E program, which was a BMW program that was their next step in their test fleets before they would launch their production EVs. As everybody who drives an EV knows, as soon as you start driving EV, you want to keep driving EV. My wife and I were thinking of what should we get as our next car. So we put in a reservation for a Model S and did that. But in the summer of 2013, when we were looking to take delivery of our Model S later that year, we kept getting the usual emails from Tesla saying, "Hey, can you finalize your order?" And I wanted to wait until the Active E was closer to the end of its program before we do that. And while we were in the middle of being on the website, my wife and I were configuring the car, and we kept going back and forth on pano roof, no pano roof options. And then she pointed out that there was a section called previously owned or certified pre-owned or something like that on the website. And she said, "What's that? I thought they're all new." So we clicked on it, and she saw her car and said, "You can get a yes," because I was originally going to get a Leaf or something like that, and she was going to get the S. "You keep the S. I want one of those." And so we picked up the Roadster. Now that Roadster is special. It's signature number 40. And when we picked it up, most signature series Roadsters have a plaque behind the driver, between the driver and the passenger, that tells you the name of the original owner, right? So in our case, the plaque was removed, and I'm like, that's strange. Why would that be removed? The salesperson further intrigued us into saying, "Well, we had to remove it to protect the identity of the previous owner." Well, you know, I'm one of those kids who say, "Don't touch." Obviously, you try to touch it, right? Um, well, I let it go, so that's fine. And we had to wait till they prepped the car, and they said, "Okay, go ahead and pick up the car." We picked up the Roadster first because we're still waiting for the S to be built, and we picked it up. We drove it home. We decided to go drive it all the way around because we charge it maximum, which at the time was 200, 240, something like that, 245. And when we got home, plugged it in. We have a level 2, so which type 1 for you guys. So it should have charged, but got a charging error. I'm like, okay, that's great. This is a new to us, warranted, certified pre-owned vehicle. And the way that Tesla did their certified pre-owned Roadsters, it was the original warranty was 36 months, I think 30,000 miles, maybe. I forgot what the mileage was because we got it in time. What they ended up doing was they added 1,000 more miles, and they gave you a 37-month warranty. So we're like, all right, fine, well, call Tesla, get it. This is back in the day when you could call Tesla for service. So those of you that are newer owners, you may not realize this, but you used to be able to pick up the phone and call them, right? So I called Tesla. I said, bring it in to look at it. And so I bring it into the service center in Orange County, Costa Mesa, drove it in, and first thing someone told me as I pulled the car up, and he pulled up the VIN, and they said, "Oh, you're the one that bought Matt Damon's car."
Ah,
So apparently, service and sales do not talk to each other on what they're supposed to say and not say. I've had further verification from other experts in the Roadster community that it indeed was his car, except I don't have anything in the back that says the plaque, right? So it was a fun time. It turned out one of the things that you got to worry about for Roadsters when you own a Roadster is the power electronics module fails, right? And it was under warranty at the time for me. Then we did that, and it took them a few days to get it fixed. And I ended up getting a brown Model S as a loaner, which is one of those rare, super rare colors, and it was rare back then as well. It looks like chocolate, right? It's fine. Yeah, so we take the car and it was good. So what happens is when you do an annual service on a Roadster, they always pull out the PEM from the car, clean things around, and reinsert it. Well, that's a very delicate process. So because another time, a few years after that, during annual service, the PEM failed again. This was under warranty, so they replaced it again. And somehow there's something with the pins that do that. So I would recommend that if you do get a Roadster and you have it serviced, make sure the person you go to knows what they're doing. There you go, a brown Model S. Yeah, so it's that's how the thing came about with the Roadster. A few months later, we picked up the S in November of 2013. And at that time, we basically, the only gasoline that we consumed, or petrol we consumed, was on the flight from the LA area all the way up to San Jose, because we took one of the first Tesla limo services in the Bay Area, a company called Quicksilver, to take us from San Jose Airport to the Fremont factory. We picked up we did a tour, we picked up the S, and like any good wine drinker, we spent the weekend. We drove up to Sonoma and Napa, and back then the front was so big you can fit a case of wine in there, right? Not so much anymore. But you get a box of wine, you throw it in there, and it's perfectly safe. It may not be as cool as it would have been if I put it in the back, but at the time you used to have to buy the little lids, and I didn't decide whether I was going to buy one or not yet when I ordered it. And of course, I bought it after that to be able to carry more wine and not have it so exposed. But that's how we got into the S. And then a few years later, we stood in line for the Model 3, and we got our Model 3 in 2017. So all our
Fantastic.
cars are first gen of pretty much, well, the S is kind of second gen, because when it was being built was when they introduced the parking sensors and the folding mirrors. That was a first upgrade, right? It's like, oh, let me have one of those. And you get introduced to the Tesla crazy pricing policies that change prices and everything. So I had to decide whether I wanted that or I wanted the premium audio that we originally had. So the premium audio went from $900 to $2,000, but I had parked. So I got rid of the premium audio, and so I just give me the parking sensors and the folding mirrors. That was more important to me.
But
So
Dennis, this is pre-autopilot, isn't it?
correct. Autopilot arrived maybe half a year later at the Elon's D event in Hawthorne. That was a wild party. It was a great party. He had the robots carrying the battery packs around and stuff. If you ever see the pictures, but that was one that the tickets, they let a lot more people in than they had tickets for, kind of thing. That was back when it was easy to crash the events, which is why it's so difficult now to get into the events, right? So
Absolutely, absolutely. That's awesome. Now, the reason why we actually got you on, because you had us intrigued a few days ago,
yep.
was this tweet. So, can you please explain what this image is showing?
Yeah, so that's good. I had that bookmarked actually if you needed a photo of it. Yeah, so we had that error pop up at the beginning of the year. And basically, it shows that the battery was failing some of its tests that lets you know whether you can go on with charging the car fully. At the time, I was on a release of software from 2020, because the upgrades in the 2013s are now so much delayed between releases. And so first thing I did was shop around to see what I can do about it, right? Tesla tells you the only fix that they can do is swap the battery. All right, so swapping the battery has two connotations, two threads you can do. If they have one available, they can offer you a refurbished pack for half the price of what a brand new pack would cost, which I shared on Twitter. If you have it, if not, I can share it on what I've screenshot from my invoice. No, that's the pack
No.
version. It would have been on the thread, but
Oh, okay, that's cool. I'll dig that up in two
yeah. So
seconds.
it's like 20,000 approximately, right? With
Yep.
labor and pre-tax is what I shared on Twitter, because the tax authorities may tax labor in your place or may not, may tax the whole part, whatever. Um, so the original quote I had in January included either a brand new pack, which was approximately 20,000 with installation, a refurbished pack, which was going to be half of it. The difference between the two was warranties, right? So a brand new pack would be a 4-year, 50,000 mile warranty, like, basically like a new battery. And then a refurbished pack was only 1 year. They didn't give me a mileage limit on that. So it's 1 year, whatever it is, on the refurbished pack. All right, that's good to know. Additionally, because we're Roadster owners, we've been saving, because of the PEM issue that I was mentioning, we typically save or reserve 10,000 a year in case we need to replace the PEM. Assuming the parts are available, there's a place in Arizona called Gruber Motors, which is where we've had my wife's Roadster serviced at, because in 2019, in July of 2019, her pack started exhibiting issues similar to what we had, where it would only charge at decreasing levels, if you will. And it was determined that we had a brick that had failed. And the thing is, when you have a brick that's failed, it will take the whole pack down to that level, because that's what it tries to manage at. And we sent it to Gruber to have it fixed, and it took them from July to January to fix. So January 2020, right before the pandemic, we got the car back. And what they do there is they find a battery that would be able to be replaced into the modules, so that it was similar in age, similar in performance as the best of your battery, so that it would level up to that. And Gruber does the same service with out of warranty Model S's on the batteries, right? The challenge with Gruber was they put me on a wait list. The wait list at the time in January was 6 to 8 months. Well, having experience with driving EVs of less than 100-mile range without supercharging, we're like, okay, we can put that car into that sort of service. She can use the Model 3 instead, or because at the time we need more than 2 seats, right? Otherwise, the Roadster would be in service. We need to be able to fit kids in the back of the car, because when we help family. So that was those were the things that we had to wait for. Tesla said, there's a wait for the battery packs. If you want to be on the list, put your name on the list. So I put my name on both lists, both in the Gruber list and on the Tesla list. Whoever comes up first would be where it was. And in the meantime, like any rational human being, I did some cross shopping, right? I mean, I love Teslas, but I took this as an opportunity to try to see if I could own a different EV, right? I pointed out I find myself attracted to either the Kia 6 or the Ioniq 5s. Those look good, but in order to have a happy wife, we decide on large expenditures as a family, and the aesthetics and the branding was not something that my wife approved of. So those were quickly gone, even though the tech of, my whole thing is, look, if we are out of a charge, these cars can actually charge the other cars off of them. So that would be cool. And she's like, but you have AAA, they can just put it on a flatbed and tow the car for you. So, I lost that argument, which is fine. Then I started looking around and said, okay, what about something that I wouldn't mind beating up, right? I looked for used Leafs, and nothing was popping up. And at that point, if I'm going to look at a used Leaf, I might as well wait for the battery, because that's 100-mile range. So, all right, let's look at something greater. Well, as many of you know, if you paid attention to EV news, Chevy had some problems with their Bolt fleet the past few years. So you could actually buy a used Bolt that has about 215 miles of range, which is about double what the S was giving us. You guys have to do your math to multiply it by 1.6, right, to get your kilometers.
Yep, that's all cool, all good.
All right, I'll speak in miles so you guys can translate
Yep,
the kilometers.
absolutely.
I can do the math quickly on centigrade. I think we're like a 23 or 24 today here, so it was warmer than the normal. But I was looking at used bolts and they were running in at about 20,000. I'm like, that's great. But at the end of the day, if I spend that kind of money on a brand new battery, I get a 4-year, 50,000 mile warranty in the car. And that's effectively buying a used Model S that I happen to know all the history of, all its quirks. And, I have autopilot and I've been on FSD beta on the Model 3 since, for over a year, since before they did the whole stupid program on safety scores. So I'm like, I've got the latest technology. Until they come up with a Cybertruck and it's bulletproof or whatever else, I'm pretty sad. So I that's why I went ahead and said, you know what, that's the decision. We'll go with that. If that pops up first, we'll go for that. We'll go for new. We eliminated the used car route. We eliminated the refurbished battery route. We kept the repair it at Gruber available and the new pack that becomes available. And that was great. But about a month and a half ago, finally got a firmware update. So update goes into the car, it sets it up. I ran it through, it turns on, error goes away. Plug it in, charges all the way up to what my 90% had been prior to the error popping up. So I'm like, okay. I talked to my the manager. I still have the phone number to the. You're supposed to just text them or message them now, but because of history, because of all the time I've had with the same place, and I've been going to the same particular service center because Roadsters in Southern California are concentrated in the one service center, so they know us there. And I told the manager, look, the error went away, but can you keep me in the battery list just in case it pops up and we can make the determination? He said, that's fine. Thanks for letting me know. And I told him, look, if you know that it's going to get shipped down and it needs to go somewhere else, let me know so you can stop shipping it down. Because as a shareholder, I didn't want them wasting resources to get a battery that I'm going to refuse, because it's basically the cost of shipping a car, right? So he said, that's cool. So we had a month of relief from the time that the firmware was up until the error popped up again. So the photo you have there was when the error popped up again. And I'm like, okay, looks like it really is not a good battery, so they need to do something with it. And then I messaged my guy and he said, let me check. And he said, you know what, I can get you a battery now, because I was fourth in line months ago, and so it's finally my numbers finally popped up. I said, let's go ahead and do it. We scheduled it, and I told them, you know what, can we put it when the credit card month starts, so at least I can do the financing on it and run it through it and figure, because I wanted to put on a specific rewards card, so at least I can say, you know what, the battery paid for a trip, right? It's like it covered my hotel costs or whatever it is. And so we did that.
Cool. So then, obviously, on the 30th of March, you then put up this tweet, which
Yep.
was you actually collected it, your
Yeah,
refreshed
no,
Tesla.
we picked it up. That's exactly that. I mean, that was the mileage when I picked it up at the service center, and that's at 100% a charge at the time. That's an 85, brand new out of the factory. We picked it up, had 265 miles. I haven't been at 265 miles in the maximum in forever, right? So it was
Now, just for reference, there, Dennis, that just
yeah.
happens at coincidence to be 420.8 kilometers. Not quite the perfect number of,
Oh
not
man,
quite. I need to get the proper mileage conversion because it's not just 1.6. But
yeah,
wouldn't it be lovely if it was 420.69 kilometers?
yeah. Well, I should have changed it to kilometers, man. But
You should have.
well,
You
I know
should
the
have.
math. It's like 100 kilometers is like 60 miles an hour, right? But everybody goes so much faster. So
Absolutely.
62,
Now,
62 miles per hour is 100
ex-
kilometers.
exactly. So getting back to the pricing, I think you also
Yeah,
tweeted that it was, is this right?
that's correct.
$19,000?
So it's 19,148.80 for the parts. The labor is 4,950, and then I peeled off basically any of the taxes and the like that's on there, because that's location specific, right?
Yeah, so you mentioned here that if Tesla keeps the old pack, it's an extra 10K.
Correct.
So they have a salvage fee,
Yeah,
or
it's like returning a milk bottle, right? Or you know, or whatever bottles you would have for recycling.
yep,
So because what they do is that's how they get the refurbished packs, right? They grab those and use that there. I spoke with some of I mean, there's several people that do repair Teslas now. The Gruber folks I talked to, and there's some other people down, like EV West down in San Diego, use
yep,
Tesla parts to do conversions and the like. But what they do is they usually buy salvaged vehicles, crashed vehicles, and that sort of thing, and pull out what they need. So I asked, look, if it's going to cost me 10,000 to keep it, what are you willing to pay for it, right? And effectively, it wasn't worth it for them to pick up a known um, bad pack. I mean, because normally what happens is it's only really either a brick or sheet in the pack that's bad. The rest of the pack's usually pretty good, and you just have to find it. Well, what's good on the Roadster is there's actually a diag mode on the display unit that lets you figure out which cells are doing what, right? With the Model S's and onward, Tesla pulled that off and put it on a laptop so that you need to have your laptop to be able to figure that out. And they don't provide that to third parties. So they have to do their own digging to figure out what cells are bad, which is why, when you have your pack repaired, it's going to take that kind of thing. So whereas with a Roadster, it was easy. When you pull it up, it tells you which sheet it is, then you can go to the thing to fix it because it shows you right in the little display.
yep.
And unfortunately, they pulled that out. I mean, you've got this great display on the car that could have shown it if you can just hack it into the diag mode, but they don't provide that anymore. You have to have a laptop. So
Yeah, absolutely. So the pack you actually got ended up being a 90 kilowatt hour pack, but I think initially
correct.
you indicated that it was software limited to 85 kilowatt hours. Is
That's
that was
correct.
that because of a Tesla policy that they would replace effectively like for like? So if you had an
That's
80,
what that's what the service center said was, they're not allowed to upgrade me. They're only allowed to replace for me what was there. However, earlier this week, I did screenshots in case you needed me to share it. I got a letter, an email from a Tesla quality engineer that was checking over the work and said, I noticed that you bought a 90 kilowatt hour pack. I've sent the approval to upgrade you or to release the remaining capacity in the pack you bought. And then I asked them, well, how do I tell that I've got a 90 kilowatt hour pack? Well, he said, well, if you go on your app or on your screen, it should show that it's a Model S 90, because I've already released it for you. So, it was a surprise because my plan was if it was going to be software locked, it effectively 100% on an 85 is effectively the 90% of the 90, right?
yep,
Thereabouts, close enough.
yes,
So
yep,
I was going to be like, all right, fine, I'll just charge it all the way to 100 and it'll be fine. But now you got to do the usual pack management, just put it to 90 or 80 or whatever when you supercharge
yes, yep.
and run it that route. But
And
at
to
the
be
same
clear,
time,
this is a brand new pack, isn't it? It's absolutely brand
correct,
new.
absolutely brand new, a brand new 90 kilowatt hour pack, right? Because they're not building 90 kilowatt hour packs anymore. They're building them for the long range or the plaid or whatever, right? Um, at least that's what they're calling it now. But I think what they were doing was to make inventory simpler. They build 90 kilowatt hour packs because the Model S 90s were the last ones they had there, and then they have the other 100 kilowatt hours for the other ones, I guess.
Okay, cool. So was there any indication that this might have been a pack that's been in storage for some time since they
Uh,
started making the 100 kilowatt packs, or do you think that they may deliberately be
I
actually?
think they deliberately make them for spares because there was a wait time, right?
Yep,
I had to wait before they had a pack available to be used. So they're either working on refurbs for people that want refurbs or not. And it was fourth in line in the service center I was at, waiting for a pack. And like I said, I told the guys over there, I'm not going to leave it with you because they're not going to plug it in. It'll just kill the pack. I still have utility of the car at 100-mile range or really 93. And I just use it like I would an old, Nissan Leaf without, with the ability to supercharge and, just would stop abruptly at 93 miles.
Fantastic. So you've basically turned your 6-year-old car, 7-year-old car into.
No, it's not. It's remember the warranty is 8 years,
Oh,
unlimited
yes.
miles. It's a
Yes, it
2013,
is.
right? So we picked up in November 2013. Warranty ran out November 2021. Now, as I've mentioned to many a friend, that as an owner, I should be pissed off because it's so close. But as a shareholder, I'm like, you know what? They have to build a sustainable business, and I understand that.
Yep.
Look, the bargain was an 8-year unlimited mile warranty from when in fact, it wasn't even that when I first got the car, right? They only bumped everybody up to the unlimited mile warranty within that earlier period.
Yep.
And so to me, it's like, okay, I got the utility out of it. Frankly, I think that the pandemic and the lack of use on the vehicle is part of what degraded it more than anything else. Because these things want to be used, right?
Yes.
You don't want to fully discharge it, you don't want to fully charge it, but it does want to be moved around. And frankly, during the pandemic, it was hard for me to do so. I mean, we have 3 cars we got to drive.
Yeah,
And the
absolutely.
most expensive one for me to worry about is the Roadster. So that would be the one that we would take care of more to do so. I mean, when they finally let us do stuff around, I mean, I just go for drives to nowhere. And that gets really boring. So, yeah.
No, that's fantastic. Yeah, obviously you're going to take the Roadster for a fang because that's the historic first Tesla.
Yep.
It still amazes me how you can sit in a Roadster, put your hand down
Yep.
beside you, and touch the road, but to the palm. Like you can basically
Yeah.
literally just touch the road as you're
Well,
sitting in the seat.
Harold, you might be able to do that because you're taller than me. But my wife and I, being the short Asian Americans that we are, I don't think we can quite reach that. We have to really lean over and touch it.
Ah, dear, it's all good. It's all good. Now, listen. The other reason why I wanted to talk to you
Yeah.
tonight or this morning was another tweet that I find quite outrageous, and I'm very upset. And
Yep.
this tweet goes something like this. So, can you perhaps explain this to us, Dennis?
Yeah. So I got an invite uh, for the event tomorrow. Right.
Fantastic.
I didn't expect to get an invite. I didn't ask to be invited, but I got an invite, which is awesome. But it's one of those things that unfortunately I have family commitments on Friday. It's my nephew has his engagement party that's been planned, and then he's moving. He's leaving the state. He's moving to the middle of the country. So, and he's the first one to get married out of my nephews and nieces. So, in order to make sure that I'm welcome to Thanksgiving, to Christmas, and all sorts of other family gatherings, and just in case I want my name to carry on and I can pester my nephew to name his child after me, um, I need to be there. So it would be difficult to make it to Austin and back and be assured that my COVID status is as it is, because that would require me to be on an airplane coming and going, and the way that the states run them is different state from state, and Texas is not exactly known as a luckily right now the numbers are good across the country, but I wasn't going to risk it. So that was why, like I said, it was one of those is really awesome. Thank you very much, Tesla. I appreciate it. Um, but I had to give my regrets. So
So, um, so Dennis, I'm just looking at Qantas to see some flights.
yeah,
There's one leaving. Let's see. I'm not sure when it's going to
yeah. I don't know if you'll make
arrive.
it there on time, because if you
So,
leave right now,
let's see. Austin, 14:08 on Friday. Oh no,
yeah,
that's
you'll miss it. You would have had to leave yesterday to make it to tomorrow.
oh.
No, you'll
So,
leave. It's 2 days.
so why
I've
didn't
done
I?
that with the
Why didn't
states.
why didn't we have this discussion 2 days ago?
Well,
Look, it's fantastic that you.
it's my space. Actually, if I could pass it along, has already been spoken for by some of our other friends from other
Of,
places. So,
of course,
there's a
it.
bunch of Europeans that are crazy enough to go. The guys from Singapore, I think those guys just got formed right before the the Giga Berlin event and think that they can go to all these Giga events. So there's quite a bit of the Singapore guys that have gone as well.
Cool. Yeah. Look, they're great events. I've been to the Cybertruck event. I've been privileged enough to go to the Cybertruck event, which was
Yep.
just awesome.
Yep.
It was really
Did you get
awesome.
to ride in it?
No.
Yeah, because I mean, I
We
was
were the
there,
last,
and
me and Robert Rosenblum from
yeah, yeah, you guys
Talking
were behind
Tesla.
me.
Yes.
Because I mean, I
So
was in line and they shut down, and I'm like, it's like, sorry guys, the permit ends at midnight. I'm like, really?
yeah, I was pretty gutted. Although obviously we had to go in the simulator so you could look
Yeah, I did
around,
that.
and because I had used a simulator in Europe at
Yeah.
the factory there, I realized that if you poked your head through things, it would
Mhm.
still work like there was a complete car. So in the
Wow.
Cybertruck, I deliberately put my head through the back, through into the vault, so you could
Yeah.
actually see that, which was really awesum.
You
But
like
yeah.
to you like to violate physics. I see. You wanted to touch the ground from the Roadster. There are a few things that I believe really are hard
Us
to.
Australians are fond of bending the rules and exploring. Well, we explore wherever we can.
Well,
But
I guess that's what you get for being descendants from prisoners of Her Majesty, right? I mean,
oh, now Dennis, I mean, look, I can assure you that my ancestors were handpicked by the best judges of England and invited to come to Australia.
because it's awesome. It's always a party with you guys. Whenever I hang out with an Australian, it's just trouble.
Well, so I believe you got a bit of Australian wine. Would briefly tell us the story of that, please, Dennis. You've
Yeah.
got
So
Kutching in your
th-
hand.
this is from Western Australia. I visited my god brother and god sister and their families in 2016. Went to see a Wildcats game, and we just enjoyed things around. And we went to a BWS and said, "Oh, let's grab something local." I brought some wine from California to share with them, but I'm like, let's grab something. And this is one of those. It was a fairly affordable bottle. Grabbed one. We had it with dinner that night, and I'm like, "Well, this is really spectacular." It was cheap. It was less than $20 if I remember correctly. So we bought enough to fill our luggage to bring back home, and this is the last bottle that I have from that 2016. Now, because it's a more affordable wine, I don't think it was meant to be cellared, but I ended up cellaring this particular bottle, and it's a 2010. So hopefully it did well. The last time I opened one was 2 years ago, and it was spectacular. So you know, you,
Fantastic.
normally you think of Australia, you think of Shirazes, but this was a Cab Sav, and I thought it was awesome.
That is awesome. That's fantastic, and it's great that you've got that link to Australia. And we would love to have you back sometime. And there's always an open invitation to you and any of your members to come and party in WA.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know,
Well, it's the farthest capital from anywhere, right?
yes, and our supercharger in Eton had the honour of being the world's most isolated supercharger until it lost that crown to one of the superchargers, well, a supercharger in Kazakhstan, and
Yeah,
then
no, that
it
was
actually
Anwar Beck from the Austin Club was the one that was responsible for getting that supercharger up. He
precisely. And
yelled. Go ahead.
yes, no, you go,
Yeah, he,
Dennis.
he yelled. He yelled. "Well, what about a supercharger in Kazakhstan in the middle of a presentation?" Next thing you know, Elon agrees to it, and it's out there.
And Dennis, I think that was the Model Y presentation, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think it was. I really regretted that I wasn't there and I didn't yell out Western Australia, but
Well, if you listen to the
but
recording, I was the one shouting for Hawaii because Hawaii actually
yes,
got their supercharger installed after WA did. So you
it did
guys got
too.
your supercharger before.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, the funny thing was, uh, Kazakhstan then got the crown as being the world's most isolated supercharger, but then Tesla installed two in Kazakhstan. So then Eaton became the world's most isolated supercharger again. So it's actually gotten the award twice.
Well,
Oh dear.
they'll build a network to get to you guys, but it's a good thing you have the sockets all across Australia's edges to get around the country.
Yes, we do. Well, there's a gentleman by the
But
name of
how
John. Sorry, go, Dennis.
how useful is that though with the Model 3s and the like? Aren't those single phase now? Or are they still three? Or are they still three phase? They're
No, no.
limited to
So
48 amps, right?
no, no. So we've got three phase. So a Model 3 can take 16 amps three phase, which is 11 kilowatts.
Yeah,
Um, there are some other EVs, such as the Hyundai Konas, that are single phase, so they can only do
yeah,
32 amps single phase, which is 7.6 kilowatts.
yeah.
But actually, I just quickly go to plug share, and this is the situation as we have it at the moment. I'll just filter out the AC chargers very quickly. So these are all the fast DC chargers. Now, there's you've got to be a bit careful because all of the ones down here are 50 kilowatt plus DC.
Yeah.
Most of them are 50 kilowatt plus. Now, a gentleman by the name of John Edwards actually put a Delta 20 kilowatt DC charger at Balladonia, which is on the
Okay.
Nullarbor, which is actually a place where Skylab, a lot of pieces of Skylab were found
Oh, awesome.
near Balladonia, and there's actually a museum there, which is pretty awesome.
Like 70 something, right? When it crashed.
79, I think,
Yeah.
off the top of my head. And there's another one at the Madura Pass. But what was really great, and it was a great innovation, was the
Ah,
biofuel charger. So, so
refill
what?
50.
So what this? And absolutely, this is an RT50
Yep.
tritium. And what this is a standard diesel generator,
Yep.
but you'll see there's a couple of 44-gallon drums at the back. Now, what these contain is actually used vegetable oil. So it's
Yep.
chip oil that basically gets gravity filtered. It's
Yeah.
fed into the diesel generator and then obviously transformed into the car. So, so what it basically does is the great thing is that the used canola oil would
Yeah.
otherwise have been dumped in the ground and then later
Yeah.
converted by bacteria to methane, which is a bad thing to happen, or it
Yeah.
would have been poured on a fire heap or a trash heap
Hmm.
and set fire and converted to carbon dioxide whence it came. So by John Edwards basically putting it into a diesel generator,
Hmm.
he's he's converting the canola to carbon dioxide in any case, which would have already happened, but he's also then putting energy into an EV, which is an
Hmm.
awesome achievement. So what that basically means is that now there is a 50 kilowatt fast DC charger along the Nullarbor. There's a couple of
Yep.
20 kilowatt DC chargers, but Australia still has a lot of work to do.
Yeah. No, that's a lot of places to keep growing.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
Well, I'm a big fan of Tritium filling up some of those things because I am a shareholder, so
Yeah,
and
awesome. Yeah,
ex-employee.
well, fantastic.
Dennis, just
Yes.
got a proposal for you, Dennis.
Sure, Rob.
You obviously like West Australian wines, and
Yes.
in quarter 3 of 2023, the worldwide Tesla Owners Club's meet is in Sydney.
Yep.
Harold and myself are both going to have a spare Tesla next September, so I think you should fly to Perth, pick up your
Yep.
wine, and you can drive a Tesla across the Nullarbor to Sydney.
That that sounds like a plan. I'll have to check with the wife, but that 2023 should be doable.
So you'll have a choice of an old Model S or a newer Model Y.
Yeah. I'm always partial to the. Oh, are you talking about the twin of my car, the one that's yours, the P85D?
Yeah, the P85D. It loves going across the Nullarbor, so you can take that. You have a bit of fun.
Yeah. Hey, Rob, I'll be there, but I got to check with the wife. I don't make commitments without checking. So my goal is stay married. But as you know, she's also Tesla crazy, and I remember sitting. I sat. That was the first right-hand drive Tesla I sat in when you guys did that spring thing. What was that? 2014?
It was October 2016, and it was right
2016,
outside
yeah.
the Perth post office in the middle of the city.
Yes. There you go. Yeah. No, I remember. I'm trying to remember exactly when it was, but yeah, I've been to Perth a few times. So yeah. So if it was 2016, then that's correct. I mean, but that was the first right-hand drive Tesla that I've sat in.
That's fantastic. That's awesome. Well, Rob's thrown down the gauntlet, and that
Yeah.
offer is there, absolutely
Look,
open.
I've I've driven back in 2015 from Southern California all the way up to Maine. So that's farther than, but it's all supercharged, right? It's not like a challenge you guys have with having to figure out which cable to plug into what socket and having to change things around. So
Just for a note, there, Maine is in the up northeast.
correct. So
So
the
that's
length of Australia is typically the distance from San Diego to Baltimore, which is right by Washington if you do that. So it's a little further out. So
yes.
if I had done it, yeah, I would be in the water if I had done it in Australia going that distance, somewhere in the Tasman Sea.
Well, I mean, we don't want to brag, but Rob and myself and others have gone around Australia, and that's about 15,500 kilometres or 9,000 miles. And that's almost exclusively on AC charging. It's just
Well,
it's just what you have to put up with. Which, look, I'm sure you guys as pioneers,
yeah,
before the supercharger network was a thing, is exactly
yeah,
what you had to do.
it was definitely the campgrounds, 240 volt. And the thing is, in America, it's before the supercharger network was prevalent, our normal feed is half the voltage. So
Yeah.
the power levels are cut down unless you find a 240, right? So that makes it a little bit more difficult to get to because you have those challenges, right? And it's what you put up with, and you learn, and you hope that adoption gets there. And now everyone's so spoiled, right? I mean, I always find that the best Tesla owners are the ones that have tried to drive something else, right? Because you really are happy at the fact that your EV does what it does rather than what others have done.
Absolutely. And I think in Western Australia, we're slightly different. Those who've had Teslas for a while, it's a two-stage process. Our cars were great when we first got them, but the charging was completely lacking. But now there's a supercharger actually in Margaret River. So that's another great achievement of Tesla's, which is, again, an awesome wine region. But our
it's the
cars,
Western Australian wine region, so definitely.
absolutely. So our cars are now improving not just through software updates, which we do get, sporadically, but it's actually improving because the charging network is improving. And as Elon Musk said, you've really got to cover people's all their routes with superchargers and fast DC charging, because that's the best way to utilize your car to its fullest. And you really need that to augment the value of the vehicle, which means in WA our cars are actually gaining in value and utility with the rollout of the fast DC charging network or supercharging network.
Well, the good thing too is being outside of the US, third-party networks are a valid option, right? Because your sockets have been standardized to CCS2. Whereas, here in the US, we still have the Tesla proprietary, and we are reliant heavily on that. They haven't even come out with a CCS1 adapter yet. So we have the CHAdeMO adapters, but less and less CHAdeMO stations. And even then, most of them are 50 kilowatt, which, is more than double what a dual charge AC is, right? I mean, dual charge AC recovers at about 100 kilometers an hour? Approximately 95.
That's on the older S's with the dual chargers. Yes, that's right. But the newer ones are 17 kilowatts, or the Model 3s are 11 kilowatts. Yeah. So, and I think the new S's and X's, are they 11 kilowatts in the States?
I think so. I don't think that they've provided. I mean, they don't have the high power. Because remember, when they did Model X, they got rid of the dual charger. They gave you a high power option.
That's right.
To charge on.
Yep.
And then they took it away, and you're like, well, it's because you have the supercharger. Okay, great. But what if you want to do AC?
So in the States, I mean, obviously, unfortunately, you've got the Betamax VHS issue where Tesla was first. Well, they weren't first, but they sort of were in that sense.
CHAdeMO was first, but Tesla said, "Screw it, we're going to do our own."
Yeah, because you can jam more. Because CHAdeMO was 50 kilowatts, wasn't it? So Tesla wanted to go far beyond that. So I guess a great question. For instance, I've heard that Taiwan used to have the American system, the Tesla's proprietary plug, and they're actually now converting to CCS2. And I don't know if they're offering retrofits to existing cars, but they are offering an adapter. I presume.
I think that there's a chip in some of them that already understand it. So when you put the adapter in, it just goes in and goes through.
Yes.
And then because the Tesla standard is a lot more akin to to CCS, right? Because Tesla is part of the CCS governing body. They Charin, they joined Charin
They did
years
too.
ago to help part with the specs, and so they're able to do that sort of thing.
And you
Whereas
know
with
what?
CHAdeMO, you've got the big
Yeah,
dongle that has electronics within because it needs to translate it.
well, you know why they joined Challen was because prior to them joining, an adapter for CCS was specifically forbidden. So you
Correct.
were not permitted to use an adapter. And yet Tesla did a great thing, which is join and then
Yeah.
work out how to do a passively engaged
Yeah.
adapter that was still fully secure. So
Yeah.
the great innovation there was there's a little plastic pin that goes down the earth connector
Yeah.
of the Type 2, and that actually then causes prongs to come out to engage
Yeah.
with the car so that you cannot disconnect at any time, which is
Yeah.
awesome. So I guess the question there
That,
is
that
surely,
also explains some of the common failures with CCS2 plugs. Like if it gets disconnected, you're stuck right on there. That's been a challenge with some of those things. But that's just a nightmare you got to worry about.
absolutely. So I presume coming soon will be a CCS1 to Tesla format adapter, because I mean that's obviously on the cards. But do you have any whispers as to whether Tesla may eventually jump in the States to CCS, or is that just a step too far, do you think?
I think that's a step too far, but the new charge port doors in the newer vehicles does provide for space, right? So, and I never say never. You know, who knows what Elon will do next, right? You just go along with the ride.
Well, the thing is, if Tesla had done this 2 years ago, there would only have been less than 1 million cars on the road.
Yep.
As we speak now, there are more than 2 million, and by the end of this year, there'll be more than 3 million. So I guess time would be of the essence if they wanted to do that step.
Yeah,
But perhaps,
or they'll just do what they normally do, which is they'll just like what they did when they did the transition in Europe, provide two cables at each supercharger, designate some stalls for the ones that have the newer connector, and tell owners that if they if they don't provide an upgrade path, your upgrade path is buy a new car, right? The Roadsters
yes,
don't have they have their own proprietary connector. I mean, it's a big old honking thing that you just put in, and it's super secure. It's really heavy,
yep,
but it was also very expensive to make because it's very heavy steel or whatever it is, the metal that they use.
yep. Yeah, cool, interesting. Yeah, it's fascinating. Alrighty, well, Dennis, I think we've consumed much more than your time than we're deserving of, but we really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun, and we'd love to do it again. And like I said, Rob's open invitation is there and ready once you've got permission. Um,
Yeah, no, I got to talk to the wife, and we got to make sure that it's happening. Are you guys working with the with Mark and his team for the Australian one in Sydney, or are they doing that solo?
I we don't know. I mean, it hasn't really been discussed a lot at the moment because it's still a long way off. So,
Yeah,
and it's all pending pandemics and all, well, whatever's going to happen. Although I think it's
yeah,
pretty well locked in. But yeah, we'll certainly be discussing that with Mark, and we really do look forward to it. And like I
yeah,
said, there'll be several of us that will be driving either the short way across the Nullarbor or possibly the long
yeah,
way, incorporating that as part of a lap. But
yeah. So just go.
we definitely love to see you. Um, Now we've got Pete Petrosky. I don't know if you're aware of Pete, but he, as you can see, the writing above his head. Pete, how would you normally round out a show like this?
As always, stay safe, stay sustainable, and stay ahead of the curve.
And I think the best way to do that is buy a Tesla, join Tokwa, and ask us anything about accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy. It's been a lot of fun, everyone. I really appreciate it. Dennis, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for being on the show.
Right. Good night
Good night
or
and good morning,
good morning.
everyone. Thank you very much. Take
Cheers.
care.